Question 1. On a UITableViewCell constructor, initWithStyle, UITableViewCellStyle, style reuseIdentifier, NSSstring * reuseIdentifier. What is the reuseIdentifier used for? Answer. The reuseIdentifier is used to indicate that a cell can be reused in a UITable view. For example, when the cell looks the same, but has different content, the UITable view will maintain an internal cache of UITableViewCells with the reuseIdentifier and allow them to be reused when reuseIdentifier is called. By reusing table cells, the scroll performance of the table view is better because new views do not need to be created. Question 2. Explain the difference between atomic and non-atomic synthesized properties. Answer. Atomic and non-atomic refers to whether the setters, getters for a property will atomically read and write values to the property. When the atomic keyword is used on a property, any access to it will be synchronized. Therefore, a call to the getter will be guaranteed to return a valid value. However, this does come with a small performance penalty. Hence, in some situations, non-atomic is used to provide faster access to a property, but there is a chance of a race condition causing the property to be null under rare circumstances. Question 3. Explain the difference between copy and retain. Answer. Retaining an object means the retain count increases by 1. This means the instance of the object will be kept in memory until its retain count drops to 0. The property will store a reference to this instance and will share the same instance with anyone else who retained it too. Copy means the object will be cloned with duplicate values. It is not shared with anyone else. Question 4. What is a category and when is it used? Answer. A category is a way of adding additional methods to a class without extending it. It is often used to add a collection of related methods. A common use case is to add additional methods to built-in classes in the Cocoa framework. For example, adding async download methods to the UImage class. Question 5. What is the difference between viewdidload and viewdidappear? Which should you use to load data from a remote server to display in the view? Answer. Viewdidload is called when the view is loaded, whether from a XIB file, storyboard or programmatically created in load view. Viewdidappear is called every time the view is presented on the device. Which to use depends on the use case for your data. If the data is fairly static and not likely to change, then it can be loaded in viewdidload and cache. However, if the data changes regularly, then using viewdidappear to load it is better. In both situations, the data should be loaded asynchronously on a background thread to avoid blocking the UI. Question 6. What is the responder chain? Answer. When an event happens in a view, for example a touch event, the view will fire the event to a chain of UIResponder objects associated with the UI view. The first UIResponder is the UI view itself. If it does not handle the event, then it continues up the chain to until UIResponder handles the event. The chain will include UI view controllers, parent UI views and their associated UI view controllers. If none of those handle the event, then the UI window is asked if it can handle it, and finally if that doesn't handle the event, then the UI application delegate is asked. Question 7. What is MVC and how is it implemented in iOS? What are some pitfalls you've experienced with it? Are there any alternatives to MVC? Answer. MVC stands for Model, View, Controller. It is a design pattern that defines how to separate out logic when implementing user interfaces. In iOS, Apple provides UI View as a base class for all _view_s. UI View Controller is provided to support the controller which can listen to events in a view and update the view when data changes. The model represents data in an application and can be implemented using any NS object, including data collections like NSArray and NSDictionary. Question 8. A product manager in your company reports that the application is crashing. What do you do? Answer. This is a great question in any programming language and is really designed to see how your problem solved. You're not given much information, but some interviews will slip you more details of the issue as you go along. Start simple. Get the exact steps to reproduce it. Find out the device, iOS version. Do they have the latest version? Get device log logs if possible. Once you can reproduce it or have more information, then start using tooling. Let's say it crashes because of a memory leak. I'd expect to see someone suggest using Instrument's leak tool. A really impressive candidate would start talking about writing a unit test that reproduces the issue and debugging through it. Question 9. What is AutoLayout? What does it mean when a constraint is broken by iOS? Answer: AutoLayout is way of laying out UI views using a set of constraints that specify the location and size based relative to other views or based on explicit values. AutoLayout makes it easier to design screens that resize and lay out their components better based on the size and orientation of a screen. Constraint_s include setting the horizontal, vertical distance between two views, setting the height, width to be a ratio relative to a different view. A width, height spacing can be an explicit static value. Sometimes constraints conflict with each other. For example, imagine a UI view which has two height constraints. One says make the UI view 200 px high, and the second says make the height twice the height of a button. If the iOS runtime cannot satisfy both of these constraints, then it has to pick only one. The other is then reported as being broken by iOS. Question 10. How would you securely store private user data offline on a device? Answer: again, there is no right answer to this, but it's a great way to see how much a person has dug into iOS security. If you're interviewing with a bank, I'd almost definitely expect someone to know something about it, but all companies need to take security seriously, so here's the ideal list of topics I'd expect to hear in an answer. If the data is extremely sensitive, then it should never be stored offline on the device because all devices are crackable. The keychain is one option for storing data securely. However, its encryption is based on the PIN code of the device. Users are not forced to set a PIN, so in some situations the data may not even be encrypted. In addition, the user's PIN code may be easily hacked. A better solution is to use something like SQL Cipher, which is a fully encrypted SQLite database. The encryption key can be enforced by the application and separate from the user's PIN code.